Welcome to Ecologic. We're a week late due to the festival, and I want to thank Hugh Andre. He was a candidate for the Louisiana Senate and lost to Blake Miguez, a close race. But anyway, I got to know him during that event, and he's been involved. He farms 11,000 acres of cane land, and he's probably one of the most successful farmers in the cane business. The real spokesman for the idea of putting solar panels on farmland, and so anyway, we have worked together for, I guess, the last year or so.
Yeah.
And so, welcome you.
Thank you, Mr. Howard.
You might give your history, your personal history, so the
Um,
audience knows.
I was born and raised in New Iberia. Two younger brothers that farm with me. We first generation farmers. Started pretty small. About 75 acres of land, and we
You
worked
grew
worked real hard at it and grew it pretty big. We love the business. We love what we do.
Yeah.
We enjoy it, and it has its challenges, but it's been good to us.
Tell us about your involvement, I think, in Iberia and St. Mary Parish. You'll pass.
No, Iberia and St. Martin and Lafayette is where
Okay.
our farm is. Our farm is located in Iberia, but we farm Iberia, St. Martin, and Lafayette.
And your farm in Lafayette is where?
Behind the airport
Oh, yeah.
and on St. Clair Plantation, in that area right there, Gloria Switch,
Yeah.
Sawmill Highway, all those areas right there.
Okay, and then you have property in Iberia?
Yes.
And where would that be located?
Basically, Daspit Road
Oh, yeah, okay.
in 347, follow 347 going north.
Right.
We just all the way to Orneville almost.
Wow.
Yeah.
And then you're in Iberia, you must be in St. Martin?
Yeah, that's all St. Martin. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, we farm by La Suca Sugar Mill,
yeah,
and then going to the north of La Suca. Parks,
Yeah.
Breaux Bridge, Cecilia, almost in Orneville, a little south of Orneville, all in that area.
and tell us about your worries about solar panels in the farmland. Can you compete with the revenue?
No, we cannot compete with the revenue of what they're offering because,
800 to 1,000 an acre.
right, but here's the thing, everything
And
that
what does cane pay?
depending on the price, I mean, you can be between $200 to $300 an acre, depending on the price, you know what I
Yeah,
mean?
Yeah,
But the big problem is everything we touch, we got a sales tax we got to pay, we got taxes that we have to pay, which is fine.
yeah,
I mean, that's what keeps everything rolling in the economy, and, but the solar panels don't do that.
no.
So once they
you're
come-
at the foundation of the
Yeah.
economy.
So once they come in and you lose that acreage, you're not only hurting that money that the farm produces, you're hurting also the sugar mill,
Yeah, sure.
which is a big drive in the economy,
And we
which
have 11 sugar mills left.
I have 11 sugar mills left. And the problem is that, look, in agriculture, you're always gonna have, the urban development. That's just part of the game. But when you have
Well, when you get around Youngsville,
yeah,
Broussard,
right.
and I just drove through that area and I'm just astonished
Oh, yeah.
at how
But there again, you got people that are building houses.
Yeah.
They building, stores and all of those things. So money is turning right there.
yeah,
The deal with the solar is they're coming in and taking these gigantic tracts
yeah,
of really, really good land.
Yeah,
And once they take it,
yeah,
that's it.
yeah. Yeah,
That's it for the land. That's it for the farmer and the money he's generating. That's it for the money that the sugar mill's generating. You know, my thing was this. You know, if you're gonna come compete with the industry,
yeah,
you need to show the people in the area how you're gonna be better and how you're gonna give back what this industry's giving.
sure.
You know, if you're gonna compete with it.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. Once it's there, it's over. The solar panels. It's not. It doesn't keep.
no, no.
It doesn't keep revolving.
No.
You know, the sugar industry keeps turning money all the time.
That's right.
You know.
Now, you're at the foundation of the economy. I mean, it all starts with the farmer, the fisherman. You know, you're creating value. And that's why I think the politicians have supported agriculture because of that one reason, you know. I look at corn and, you know, I don't know how many billions of bushels, I think 18 billion bushels of corn.
Yeah.
And, you know, they have a 16-row combine
Oh yeah.
that harvested 18,000 bushels
Yeah.
in something like 12 hours, you know.
Yeah. Yep.
So,
I mean, I asked the question at a solar panel, you know, meeting that they had.
yeah,
How much money are you gonna bring back to the state? You know,
yeah,
tax-wise revenue, and the answer was, oh well, we'll bring back about $35 million in 20 or 30 years. I said, with the just fuel that we burn, tires and batteries, we do that in a year
yeah, sure.
with the sugar industry.
Yeah, yeah,
So how is that fair?
yeah, right.
You know, saying you're gonna come off all this money for this land, but you're gonna kill your community, you're gonna kill your state.
Yeah,
You know, look, go put it where start with the government buildings, put it on there.
yeah,
You know, pull the generators off and put them on the government building. See how they like, you know, see if it works. You know,
See-
put it on some levees. Put it on
yeah.
something that
That doesn't have any
you know
use.
that doesn't have any use.
Right.
Put it on something like that. You know, don't
Well,
take a driving force.
We're taking a serious look at putting them on levees. And one, you can't penetrate the levee with structure. So they gotta be on wheels. You gotta be able to move them and move them quickly. Because the levee breaks, you wanna be able to move them out of the way.
Right.
You know. And I have 2 levee boards that have approved them. And it's the RAB levee board and St. Mary Parish levee board.
Yep.
And though St. Mary Parish has some excellent spots. In fact, some of it's owned by my wife. But right now, you know, you can't, you can use it for grazing
Right.
on some of the levee boards, you know. I don't think the St. Mary I guess St. Mary levee board allows grazing. The Chapelay levee board, which is about 12 parishes, don't allow grazing.
Right. Right.
And, because the cows chew up the levee too much.
Right.
You know. And, so anyway, you were talking
I mean,
about,
my thing is this: the sugar industry's been in this state for almost 250 years.
yeah,
We're proven.
yeah,
We're proven. Okay.
yeah,
We're proven. You know, to come in with these solar panels and all of this stuff, to really take away from that industry,
Yeah.
on, you know, in my opinion, they're not proven at all, you know.
No.
To just even risk that or take that chance is just mind blowing to me, you know.
Now, y'all have hit a home run with the bagasse turned to pellets.
Yes.
That's
I mean, as far as I know,
That's being done at Patu and it's
Right.
being done at Lake Charles.
as far as I know, I mean, what I know as of right now, they're shipping them to Europe.
See, they're pulverizing the
Yeah.
cellulose, they're pulverizing it into superfine dust, and then running it through combined cycle turbines.
Right. And from what I understand, they're sending them back to Europe to
Right.
put them in
Demand
boilers.
for renewable,
Right, for renewable energy.
yeah,
Which I don't know why we wouldn't do that here, but
right. Yeah,
I mean-
why are we doing it here?
why we don't do it here, I don't know, but
Right.
you know,
The Europeans are so far ahead of us with renewable, you know. So that's a hell of a plus for you. And
Yep.
I heard on the radio the comment that all the bagasse in the 11 mills will be gone in 4 years.
we would like that. That would be
Yeah.
nice. That would be nice.
Any
I mean,
idea
that-
what the revenue is on that?
We're not getting anything for the bagasse. We actually giving it to them, loading it, and letting them haul it off. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, we burn as much bagasse. We use all our bagasse to run our boilers at the sugar mills, and then that's the excess that's left over. You know, so but I mean, to get rid of it, you know, if they can get rid of it, it's a good thing. You know, it's a good thing. But the revenue for us, I mean, we giving it we giving it to them and letting them process it, the sugar mills.
I was involved, I guess it's been 10 or 15 years ago, on a team that looked at the alternatives to deal with the fact that the basin can't handle the project flood. And the weakest side of it is the east side.
Yep.
They got one of those levers that's supposed to be 28 feet high, it's 12.
Mm.
And it's got 7.5-foot sheet piling, which hurricane, I guess, was the one that hit New Orleans?
Katrina?
Katrina, yeah. Those sheet pilings, when they're topped, you get a big waterfall on the backside. All the pressure is to topple it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
So we know that won't work. But if you did have a worst case flood, and we probably have one, probably not this year, but you know, I think it's coming, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The wax has captured the flow of the wax in the intracoastal has captured nearly all the flow. I think right now the Corps is not admitting it, but probably 90% of the flow is down to wax.
Yeah, it's a lot.
And the intracoastal is carrying all that to the west.
That's correct.
And, you know,
And that's what our biggest problem is in Lafayette, Iberia, and St. Martin parishes, and why we're flooding so much.
yeah,
Everything's full.
yeah, that's right.
And when you get a south wind,
The intracoastal, I think right now is not having a tidal exchange.
no.
And you know, your farming operation has to put more and more pumps,
Yes.
especially along the intracoastal, you know, so that's a real big problem for the farmers.
Oh, it's a huge problem.
Yeah,
It's a huge problem. I mean, my main, you know, my thing is with all the water we got coming down, Calumet Cut, and then coming down in the coastal, and then coming all the way
Yeah,
to, basically Avery Island, like you can say.
yeah,
Under the bridge at Sycamore Point, and it's trying to go out Southwest Pass. I mean, when you get a south wind, it holds the water in.
yeah,
And then when you get a 4-inch rain,
yeah,
and you got the spigot wide open coming from the backside with all that water coming down the intercoastal, I mean, it can't go out. And it just keeps flooding, rising, and Bayou Teche, the Vermilion, nothing. The water's pushing back in, and then, nothing's flowing. I mean, for Youngsville and Broussard or Ridge
yeah,
to flood,
yeah,
that's insane.
yeah, you're right.
I mean, I think when the levee broke in 1927 with the Mississippi River, I don't think it flooded in Broussard and Youngsville.
No.
And it's flooding right now. And you know what I mean? That's a problem.
Well, it can't go out of the intercoastal,
Yeah,
because becomes a water dam.
right.
You have a 3-mile-an-hour flow, which is a hell of a problem for the eastbound tows, because they only moving at 7 miles an hour, so
Yeah.
you take away, that net speed is 4 miles an hour.
Hmm. I mean, the other big problem is the reason why we having all of that flow. I mean, Calumet Cut at the end is so plugged.
It's a real plug.
I mean, none of the water can get out.
That's right.
I mean,
That's
it's killing
exactly
us.
right, yes.
So what it's doing is, it's coming down the intercoastal, going back around, and it's trying to get the Jaws is plugged,
That's right.
Calumet Cut's plugged, can't get out there, so it's going all the way
See, and
to,
it's plugged
it's going all the way around to try and get out of Southwest Pass,
Yeah.
which is killing Shark Island right now,
Yeah.
because Shark Island is falling off by the chunks,
Yeah,
and then after Shark Island's gone, it's gonna be Sycamore Point next,
that's right.
so. Yeah, we got some work that we need to do there. They got some work. I mean, I know when we were in high school, they used to have that big rock dam.
Yeah, oh,
That was at 6 Mile
Six Mile Lake,
Lake.
Yeah,
We used to catch striped bass right there, and I want to say it had to be around 94, 95. I think they pulled it out.
they pulled it all out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And why, I don't know.
Because the intracoastal took 40% of the flow.
Yep.
You had a 5-foot head, you had a flow of 8 knots. Some of the tows couldn't go up against it. They had to put extra tugs to get up that thing, and it's the I guess the tugboat people that condemned it.
And now they constantly
Dr.
dredge.
Paul Kemp did the hydrology work on it, and he was saying, I think it's 9 miles between the river and the wax, and it was moving at 8 miles an hour,
And now-
and it cut to 30 feet.
Yeah. And now they constantly dredging Chapel
Yeah, right.
because they have no flow.
Well, the problem is when it passes 6 Mile Lake, it's going right through an area where it was dredged in 1958 to 62. Had 28 dredgers that dredged it, from 50 feet to 100 feet and 1,000 foot wide. So they came across Grand Lake, and I was a witness to it because we'd be down there fishing all the time, and it was a paradise,
Yeah. But
and,
we
and when they the last time I was on the Mississippi 5, we had to idle through that part around American Pass,
yeah.
3 or 4 miles. And the channel is about 300 feet wide and 10 feet deep. And the draft of the boat is 10 feet.
Yeah.
So we had to idle through.
But we got some serious work that needs to be done there. 'Cause
Yeah.
we just can't, we can't take any more water. I mean, the water's killing us.
Now measured the actual flow below the Highway 90 bridges right on the wax. And he was moving at 5.8 miles an hour. And an hour later, at the same spot below the bridges in Morgan City, he was moving at 1.25 miles an hour.
So where all the water's going out there, Chafalaya? It's coming,
Oh,
all coming down Calumet almost.
That's right.
Those numbers don't lie.
Now, the channel between the basin and the intercoastal is 90 to 100 feet deep, midstream depth. And the intercoastal, the flow below the intercoastal was at 3 miles an hour, and it's 2.5 miles an hour down the intercoastal. So on that particular day, it's at 6 feet, and right now it's at 6.5. Now, there's 13 channels that drain that wax lake outlet,
Mm-hmm.
and only one of them is deep enough to run a crew boat through.
Wow. Wow.
And the channel depth is 50 feet with the original depth from, I guess, a mile below the intercoastal. And then it peters out, and it comes to 13 channels that are only 2 or 3 feet deep. 12 of them are 2 or 3 feet deep, and one of them is 15 feet deep. So you got a big plug at the bottom.
Big plug.
Yeah, and you got a big plug on the Chafalaya River itself. I've discovered an island out there and made the news with it. But for sure, there is a real problem out there.
Yeah.
Right now, the basin can't handle the project flood. And if it can't, what happens to New Orleans and Baton Rouge?
Yep. I mean,
Right now it's at 59.8, say 60 feet. Its flood stage is 48. So you're at, 12 feet, right at 12 feet above flood stage.
yeah.
And Simsport is at 37, and flood stage is 47. So it's 10 feet below on the Chafalaya and 12 feet above.
Yeah.
And I would guess they have all the gates open. And when that 73 flood came through, we had one big gate. That gate is closed.
Mm-hmm.
A sandbar has formed across the front of it. We have 30 gates that are wide open right now. You can book it. And that's the overland, the gates. And the Vidalia power plant, that gate is wide open, and most of the water coming, the auxiliary gate was put in to take pressure off of the main gate. It took them 7, 8 years to fill in the main gate, the holes that the dredge between. And so anyway, we have major problems on the passing the flood. There were 3 recommendations after a year of meeting that involved deepening and widening the wax and dredging out the river through Morgan City.
Mm-hmm.
And that was one plan. The other plan was to raise the levees 10 feet. They had to close I-10 for 2 years to do that.
Okay.
And the third was no action, and of course they went with the no action.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Louisiana takes a lot of water for the whole country, you know.
Of course.
You know, I wish we'd get a whole bunch of federal assistance to get this thing right. We should. With the amount of states that we drain above us.
I think 37 or 38 states.
Yeah.
There are 17,000, I think there's 55,000 dams around the world.
Yeah.
And 48,000 in the U.S. And of those, 40,000 are in the Mississippi,
Wow.
or is distributed. There's 17,000 on the Missouri and all its tributaries.
Wow.
We went to the Fort Kent Dam last June, and I think it's 189 miles. It submerged 235,000 acres. From the top of the dam to the head of the lake is formed. It's 189 miles, and it took up 235,000 acres
Wow.
of farmland, and the shrimp and oysters and clams, they all have one main food supply, the decaying vegetation.
Mm-hmm.
You take all these dams, we're not having a problem with shrimping because of we robbed them of the food supply.
Mm-hmm.
Just like farming, you know, the topsoil is what you depend on.
Yeah, absolutely.
And the same it's the same topsoil, that decaying vegetation that feeds our fisheries, produces the marsh and all that enrichment. You're in the plant business, so I can tell you what would happen if you tried to plant dirt.
Yeah.
You plant your sugar cane in sand, it's not gonna grow.
No, not at all. Not at all.
So tell us about I think your idea of putting them on the levees probably is worth looking at, you know.
I mean, I had talked to you, you had talked to me about that a while back, and I'm like, I mean, the levees, you know.
And see, the landowners would benefit
Mm-hmm.
where it crosses private land.
Right.
Where it crosses like lakes,
Mm-hmm.
the levee board would get a benefit.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And that's a source of revenue that they don't have right now.
Right.
So
Right.
I can't see, I want to make an appearance before the Chaffalai Levee Board and see if I can get them convinced that they have spots that could easily
Well,
take.
You know, like I said, getting back on the solar panel things, I mean, I'm not out here trying to tell people what to do with their land. I'm just out here saying that the companies themselves that are coming in,
Yeah,
show me how you're going to put back in our state
yeah,
once your project is done.
yeah,
That's all I'm asking.
yeah,
Because once it's done, there's no more money turning, you know.
yeah.
So that's that was always my take on it. That was always my take.
No, we're having some real problem with finding a way to put them on the levees
Mm-hmm.
because you can't puncture the levee.
Right,
So our idea is to put them on wheels,
right.
and the big problem is having enough weight to
Hold them down.
hold them down.
Yep,
And we just put tanks and flood them.
yep, yep. You know, getting back on the flooding thing. You know, I've been at Sycamore Point a long time. I mean, we grew up out there, and when you see just a small tropical storm come in,
Yeah,
the amount of water and mud that comes in, we never had that before.
yeah.
But there's so much water that's already there.
Y'all have a camp there?
Yes, sir. You know, there's just so much water that's already there
Yeah,
that's coming from the backside.
Right, yeah.
You know, any little bit of surge of anything, it's just getting on top of the water that's already there.
Yeah.
You know, and that's all. You know, God forbid we have another Andrew.
Cool.
You know,
Yeah.
you know, I believe it put water to the railroad track in New Iberia.
Yeah.
You know.
It did.
You know, because I mean, you know, when we had Hurricane Andrew, I mean, that was a really, really bad storm. But I mean, we had a lot of wind, a lot of rain. I know it had a tidal surge. They all do.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, we had we had the marshes and everything that was there to protect us, and we didn't have all that water, you know, coming around the backside of Calumet, coming out of Calumet Cut, coming around the backside of the intercoastal on us, you know. So, that's a big concern for our area for sure.
You get involved in the issue with blackberries along your
What about them?
I just love blackberry pie. So
Oh yeah, that's some good stuff.
yeah. But I'm cautious about what kind of poisons y'all using on the cane. You know.
I ate a lot of the poison that we use on the cane, and I'm still here now. So, you know, I don't think that has any
Effect.
I don't think that has any effect on anything.
Right.
You know.
Yeah.
I mean, the one that we used, and I mean, we don't really use it as much anymore because we found that we were hurting our ant population,
Yeah.
the red ants,
Yeah.
which actually is good for us for the cane borers.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, it was Thymet. You know, before that it was Furidan.
Yeah.
That was the two that were really.
Yeah.
But in the Thymet was for the wireworms.
Yeah.
But I mean, we don't. I mean,
Now you'll have a cooperative plan that would deal with concentrating if you have an outbreak of borers, you'll.
well, I mean, we
send
use.
planes.
I mean, you know, if the sugarcane borer. I mean, we've always, that's been here forever. So we've always sprayed for that.
Yeah.
But I mean, they changed the names
Yeah.
so much, all of it. I know Confirm. Confirm was one of them. That was real friendly.
Yeah.
To the environment. You know, it was more expensive, but we wasn't hurting our red ant population and things like that,
Right.
like some of the older chemicals were. But I mean, the cane borers is really just something you spray pretty much June, July, you know. I mean, the league, LSU, you know, they try to develop varieties that that the borers, you know, they don't like as much.
Yeah.
But when you have a variety that has sugar in it, that's the one they're really going for, you know. The one that we're worried about right now is the Mexican rice borer.
Really.
Yeah, that's the one that's coming this way, and he's a bad hombre, really is. Because from what I understand, the sugarcane borer, if you have a high population and you spray them, even though they in the stalk, when they come out, you'll kill them.
Yeah.
The Mexican rice borer, if he goes in the stalk and you spray it, you don't get him. So it's a real timing issue to make sure that when they come out, you know, you get them.
Yeah.
Because they pretty tough,
Yeah.
from what I understand. I'm fortunate. I think they found a very small percentage on us last year, but you know, we're fortunate right now. We don't have a big population of it.
How many pounds of sugar do we produce? We right at 100 pounds per acre.
No. We're probably producing on an average.
900 pounds.
Oh no, we're doing about 7,000.
Really?
In between 7 and 8,000 pounds of sugar per acre.
Wow.
Yeah. We only got 2 states left in the country in sugarcane. That's Louisiana and Florida.
Yeah, and Florida is, they haven't been able to pump up their yield.
Yeah, Florida makes some really good crops. But if I'm not mistaken, I think we surpassed them. I think
Yeah,
in sugar produced in Louisiana. But
yeah,
you know,
we're the biggest sugar producer in the country.
yeah,
And the sugar beets, I guess sugar cane is about half, and sugar beets are the other half.
I'm guessing. I don't know
Yeah,
what the
right. Yeah.
I don't really know what the I know they have 16 states in sugar that have sugar beets.
Yeah,
But with their
and two states, you don't have it in Hawaii anymore.
no more in Hawaii and no more in Texas.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, the mill closed in Texas 2023.
Wow.
Yep.
Could keep that going, huh?
Yep. Nope. They had a lot of water issues down there.
Really?
Yeah. And
They gotta pay for the water.
I don't really know their deal down there. I'll be honest with you. I mean, from what I understand, it was, and this is what I understand, it had something with on the Rio Grande, it was something to do with along the border with the cartels,
Right, yeah.
controlling some water supplies, and the mill couldn't get it, with the farmers, and
Yeah, and they have to have them.
yeah, that's they have to irrigate down there,
Yeah,
so it got really, really expensive, and
wasn't profitable.
yeah, so we lost that, we lost Texas in 2023.
Cool.
Yep,
So we only have Louisiana and Florida.
right.
In Florida, they converted about, I don't know, 200,000 acres or 300,000 acres of the Everglades to sugarcane.
Uh-huh.
That was when they when Castro came in, kicked the sugarcane out, of
Right.
Cuba. And
Right.
all those companies came to Florida, and the Corps built them, I think, 19 water conservation districts,
Yeah,
and then that affected their rainfall. South Florida is a disaster, the environmental disaster, because the clouds that come over Florida from the Atlantic or the Gulf,
uh-huh.
about 90% of what they need to drop the rain. And then when you turn it all to sugarcane, that affected their rainfall, their local rainfall.
Yeah. We're fortunate. We get 60 to 70 inches of rain over here,
Yeah, right.
So,
yeah.
we good in South Louisiana to grow
I
sugarcane
think
for
you
sure.
need 50 inches of rain to
Yeah,
grow sugar.
yep.
And a couple of years ago, you probably had quite a bit less.
Oh, I don't want to see 2023 again. Whew, that was
Right,
tough. Yeah, that was tough. That was tough. That was a serious drought. That was something to see,
And it certainly impacted you.
Absolutely.
Because there were crops in Vermilion Parish they didn't even harvest.
Yeah, no, it was really bad in Vermilion Parish. We were fortunate enough to harvest all ours, but that's the lowest yield. That's the lowest yield we ever made in our 25 years of farming was in 2023.
Wow.
Yeah, that was the lowest yield we ever made. Yep. So
tell us how you started. You were you were in high school and you were
I started, it was a little bit, probably middle school. A good friend of mine, Dustin Viator, his dad was a cane farmer. They own A&M Farms.
Yeah.
And been knowing Dustin, I mean, since we've been 5, 6 years old, playing ball together and all of that
Right.
other stuff. And started working with them and liked it, you know.
Yeah.
Just took to it, you know, and stayed with them for a long, you know, till I was
Then
19,
you
20
made-
years old.
You made a deal with them to use the equipment and their 75?
No, actually, Mr. Blaine Tozan, him and Mac Viator were on the board together at Iberia,
Yeah.
and Mac and Blaine was getting, he didn't want to, he was at the point he was either have to reinvest back into the farm to buy all the new tech, the combines and all that
Yeah.
other stuff. So he had talked to Mac and said, you know, I don't have anybody coming behind me. You know, would y'all be interested in, you know, the farm? And I called him Uncle Mac. Uncle Mac said, I got the man, I'm gonna send you. So after one grinding, he said, you going to work for Mr. Blaine? I'm like, I said, what? I don't even know Mr. Blaine. And he said, well, that's where you going.
Really?
So he sent me over there, and he said, when you go there, he said, you'll own that farm one day. So I went work for Mr. Blaine for a couple of years, and then I was fortunate enough to get a little bit of land, and Mr. Blaine let me use his equipment,
Cool.
and that's how I was born.
And your two brothers came in with you?
My brothers came in 2003. 2003 they came in.
Wow.
Yep. Mr. Blaine retired in 1999,
Yeah.
and he's still there today. He's still there today. Yep. Still driving trucks and tractors and all that good stuff. So it's been a fun ride, you know. A lot of work but fun,
Yeah.
you know.
And I can do the math. Y'all, what's your net on 11,000 acres that you harvested? What is it, 7,000 pounds per acre?
Yeah, in that area.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you know, out of that 11,000, I got 1,000 acres of rice
Yeah.
and crawfish. So the rest of it, it's about 10,200 acres total
Yeah.
on the property of cane, but 2,500 to 2,800 acres of that every year we got to plant it. So you got to take that out because that's always being planted.
Yeah.
And then you need to take another 500 acres of seed to plant that
Yeah.
2,800 acres. So we'll normally bring in the neighborhood of probably about 7,000 acres to the mill,
Right. Golly.
you know. So, you know, in that area.
And it's 8,000 pounds of sugar per acre.
Yeah,
You're getting,
56 million pounds.
yeah.
But you got to divide that into two. So
Yeah, right.
we got, because, you know, the sugar mill got to take their share and you pay the landowner, so you got what's left.
Right, yeah.
You know. So now I'm at 25. Now I'm at 25 to 27, and that's what we got to pay the bills with, you know.
Yeah.
But farming,
What's the typical landowner getting? What percentage?
I mean, right at 16, 17% on their land,
Yeah.
you know. So,
It covers their tax.
oh no, they do way better than covering their taxes. They do well with it though.
Yeah.
You know, if you think about it, I mean, you know, you have some property, you don't have to maintain it. It's maintained for you.
Yeah.
You get a good check off of it.
Yeah.
You know, it's a pretty good deal.
Yeah, we have about 400 acres of sugar cane.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting around 400 an acre.
See?
Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
So that's, I don't know.
Yep, like I said, it depends on the price, you know. I mean, we've been getting some really good prices the last couple of years.
Yeah.
It's coming down right now, but, you know.
How's the tariffs gonna affect you?
Well, the tariffs on our prices, it really shouldn't affect us.
Yeah,
But what's gonna affect us is the tariffs on all the parts and the barons and all of those
yeah,
things.
yeah.
You know, but hey,
You gotta roll
it's a
with it.
reciprocating tariff.
Yeah,
I don't blame the president. You know,
yeah.
it's a reciprocating tariff. You know, and they've been taking advantage of this country for a long time, and you know, I don't,
Well, I dealt with that in the car business, and
you know, I don't blame him.
I sold a guy, I think he was in Monaco, which I think is part of Spain or France. And he wanted a Seville, and my brother was driving one, and if it was new, it was 300% tariff, 300%.
Wow.
And then this was a $40,000 car, so.
Yeah.
But used, they had to have 5,000 kilometers
Yeah.
of use on it, and it cut it in half.
Yeah. But you know, I mean, that's the only thing that, you know, is gonna affect us. You know, what I'm really hoping doesn't get affected. I mean, is the, you know, all the stuff coming into the ports,
Yeah,
the timing on that. You know,
yeah,
because in you know, agriculture is a timely business. You know,
yeah,
a week is a lot.
yeah, right.
That seems like forever.
Or the
You know.
crops look really pretty though.
Yeah, the crops look good. They really do. You know,
You
we were
get
really,
the
we were
rain.
really, 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 really fortunate
Yeah,
in this industry that when it got down to 4 degrees, 3 degrees, whatever it was, and we had the snow,
'cause, yeah, it covered
that
it.
snow saved us.
Yeah, right.
Because,
You had 10 inches of snow.
yeah, I mean, if we wouldn't have had that snow, we'd have probably lost 80% of the crop.
Wow.
Easy. Because I know in 1989, they lost probably 60%.
Cool.
But it was dry. When that big front came through for Christmas, what was it, 9 degrees for 2 or 3 days?
Yeah.
9, 10 degrees.
Yeah,
And I want to say they lost like 60% or 70% of the crop that year.
the bay froze over.
Yep. But this year, you know, with that, I mean, it was even colder, but with all the snow, it made a insulation on top.
Yeah,
Because I don't think the ground temperature ever got below 35.
no kidding.
Yeah. So, you know, we were really, really fortunate with the snow. That was a godsend for our industry because it'd have been something. You wouldn't have saw it. It wouldn't have been pretty. All the sugar cane right now, they had a lot of bare fields, you know, without it.
Yeah, Dr. Paul Kemp was involved in taking out the rocks, and he did the hydrology. He's a hydrologist, and the intercoastal had captured 40% of the flow. The rocks was reducing the flow down to wax 40%,
Yeah.
but below the intercoastal, the net was the same.
Huh.
It's like 38 or 39 miles gone through Morgan City,
Yeah.
and then the same water gone through the wax is a straight line. Is much shorter. It's 18 miles,
Yeah.
and so. But it impacts the intercoastal all the way to, I would think, Vermilion Parish.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
No doubt. Without a doubt. Without a doubt. But yeah, there's something that really needs to be addressed, especially for the central part of the state.
Well, you can imagine worst case conditions. I don't think the levees on the west side are in pretty good shape, but on the east side, they're in terrible shape.
Yeah. I got you.
I
No.
think they saved the levees in the 73 flood with that cheap piling.
Yeah.
And they had sunk about, they were finished in 35, and then so 73 was that 38 years?
Well, you know,
And they were sinking like a rock
Yeah.
then. And, you know, they brought the levee height with the 8-foot sheet piling. They brought it up to design height.
hmm
And that's above Market City on the east side.
Yep. You know, the other big problem on the east side of Marsh Island, you know, how wide is that now? 32 mile wide, the 32 mile wide gap or something,
Yeah.
where the Rabbit Island Reef chain used to be.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I mean, that's another problem. You got all that water coming in
Oh,
that
sure.
way. You know, I
That-
mean,
That channel, when all the reefs were there, see, it was 32 miles long and it's 4 to 6 miles wide.
hmm
And they essentially had, the opening in those reefs were about the same as Southwest Pass,
got you.
which is, you know, they measure the capacity of a river, though, is just this area, the square foot of area channel. So they went from about 600,000 to 4 million square feet.
Yeah.
And
'Cause I
which,
mean-
which has really affected agriculture, the whole
yeah.
thing, yeah.
And I mean, you know, there's just like the
And-
trash.
and I was involved in that legal fight, and what finally got them was when they were stealing the state blind. You know, we went out there for a month and monitored all their reports, you know, and they took out all the shelves the north of the Point of Fur Peninsula.
Yep.
And the north side washed through, the backside on the Gulf side was pretty stable, you know, but when they removed that reef, that created, you know, the Point of Fur Island.
Right.
Bass Rocket, no, doesn't exist anymore.
Right. I mean, I know, you know, when we were younger, I mean, like the nickel,
The nickel, yeah, still there.
you can't even see it though.
No,
The trash piles,
yeah, yeah.
you can't even see it. You know, all of those things.
Yeah.
You know, I just, you know, it's sad to lose all of that stuff because they had a lot of good stuff in that area. You know, we just got to stop all that water from coming on us. Though we need some help on the Central Coast for sure. You know,
And I don't know what the solutions are.
we got to divide the water up.
Yeah.
We got to divide the pie a little bit better because we taking way too much of it. I can tell you that.
Well, we're not getting enough down to Chafalaya.
Yeah, exactly.
The flood of 2019, I was involved in looking at the impact of that flood and the flood of 2011. And we looked at the Wax Delta, we looked at the Morganza Spillway, that was open at 11. The mouth of the Mississippi and the Chafalaya Delta. And the 011 had no sediment. I mean, when the 73 flood, we had 10 or 12 inches of sediment came through the. Let's see, I think we got a phone call. Hello? You on the air? You on the air?
Hello. Hello, Harold. This is Vic Hummert calling.
Yeah, your family is involved in sugarcane, huh? Your wife's family.
Yeah, we run it. Hello, this is Vic Hummert calling.
Yeah, your family
problem. I don't know what happened.
Yeah, that's Vic Andre, his wife.
TV, yes, volume up on his TV.
Yeah.
All right. You, thank you for being here.
Yes, sir.
You've
Appreciate the
enlightened us.
invite.
Yeah.
Appreciate the invite.
You enlighten us a lot. I'm somewhat amazed at your understanding of all the issues, especially the taking of farmland on, I guess we have, what is it, right at 500,000 acres of sugar
You were right at
cane.
500,000, yep.
Yeah,
Yep. 512, I believe.
yeah.
512, I believe. Somewhere in that area.
So anyway, we got 11 mills running, let's keep them all running.
Keep them all running.
Yeah,
Well, appreciate the invite, Mr. Harold.
thank you, sir.
You have a great afternoon.
Yes,
Nice
sir.
to see you again.
Yes, sir.
You need something, let me know.
Thank you.
Y'all have a great day.
Great. Are we off there? There we